Donald Trump is freaking out as his dark past is surfacing, as Donald Trump's efforts to cover up the Epstein files is backfiring in his face. He sent his sycophants to go and make their rounds on the various news programs to say, oh, what's the big deal here? The DOJ's doing their best, and they absolutely got bodied by voices just saying, what the hell are you even talking about? Release the damn files and stop covering up a child sex trafficking ring. Only 1% of the Epstein files have been produced, and all of the documents were due on December 19th, and the redaction report was due 15 days thereafter. Now, yesterday, a few major developments happened to try to unearth and bring to light more Donald Trump's dark past, which has him freaking out and talking about Greenland more and his phony peace board where he's invited Vladimir Putin to try to divert attention away from his cover-up of a child sex trafficking ring, because the American people are focused on what is going on. One development that happened yesterday, a giant version of the Epstein birthday card that Donald Trump sent, not allegedly, that Donald Trump sent to Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not using superfluous words like allegedly when we know what happened. That Donald Trump sent on Epstein's 50th birthday, that was put on the National Mall. Take a look right here as the New York Times and the Washington Post and others write, new protest art on the National Mall takes aim at the Trump and Epstein files. Look at the birthday card that Donald Trump sent. It's like 10 to 15 feet in height, and that was put there. So that was one development. Two, we learned about the following polling data, that only 6% of Americans are satisfied with how Donald Trump and his regime are handling the Epstein files. Yeah, because they're covering up a child sex trafficking ring. But the most important development, that the Epstein survivors, Lisa Phillips and Haley Robson, filed blockbuster documents with the federal judges handling the Epstein case, and they joined in Ro Khanna, Congress member, and Thomas Massie, Congress members, letter brief to the court that the federal judges appoint a special master to get involved, have someone independent there to release the Epstein files and force and compel the Trump regime to release the Epstein files. You know from our reporting over the past 48 to 72 hours that the Trump regime has been filing briefs with the federal judges saying that the Epstein Transparency Act actually means no transparency. The Trump regime claims that there's no private enforcement mechanism and that no judge in this entire country has the ability to do anything under the Epstein Transparency Act. I kid you not. The Trump regime's argument is that Congress did not evince any intent to allow judges to enforce the Transparency Act. That's the exact language that the Trump regime has used before federal judges now that they've been called out by Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie. But see, it's not just Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie anymore. It is a group of survivors who have filed briefs now in federal court. Yesterday, those two briefs that I talked to, and Congressmember Khanna announced those briefs. You had Haley Robson, a survivor of Epstein's abuse, filed a letter requesting a federal judge intervene to make the DOJ comply with the Epstein Transparency Act. And then you had Lisa Phillips file. And Lisa Phillips was represented by Michael Popak from Legal AF, who filed that hat tip to Michael Popak. Pause for a moment. If you can, make sure you double check that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel here. You may think you're subscribed, but you may not actually be subscribed. So double check, turn your notifications on, and make sure you're subscribed right now. Let's take a look at Haley Robson's filing. She's survivor of Epstein. You've seen her give speeches on Capitol Hill. She is absolutely incredible. She's a hero of mine. She writes to Judge Berman and she writes to Judge Engelmeyer. She writes to both of the judges. And here is what she writes in her letter. Dear Judge Berman, my name is Haley Robson. I'm a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation, and I write this letter on behalf of myself and numerous other survivors whose lives were forever challenged by crimes that were enabled, facilitated, and concealed by powerful individuals who have yet to be held accountable. Many of us have spoken publicly. It goes on to say, we know that the Department of Justice has failed to release the most important documents for transparency. The Epstein Transparency Act required the DOJ to release records of Jeffrey Epstein and his criminal enterprise within 30 days. The statutory deadline has long passed. To date, the Department of Justice has failed to comply. When they began releasing documents, they posted hundreds of thousands of pages of documents that have already been publicly available for years. These documents did not provide any of us with transparency and accountability that Congress wanted. As survivors, this failure is not merely procedural, it is deeply personal. Continued noncompliance perpetuates the same secrecy that allowed these crimes to continue. Each survivor has already paid a tremendous price. Coming forward has required extraordinary courage, exposing ourselves to public scrutiny, retaliation, and lifelong emotional consequences. We did so with the belief in our government and trusting that when Congress passed a law, the executive branch would honor it. Instead, we are met with continued delay, silence, and ongoing protection of identities that should no longer remain hidden. Then the court goes on, then she goes on to say, we ask the court to help ensure that the law is followed as written, that disclosures are complete and not improperly withheld or over-redacted with respect to those who are not survivors, and that continued delays or discretionary non-compliance do not further re-traumatize us. Oversight would protect the integrity of the process while preserving the court's authority and ensuring fairness to all parties. We understand the seriousness of requesting judicial intervention and oversight. We do not make this request lightly. Then you had Lisa Phillips in her declaration say essentially the same thing. For the reasons outlined in Representative Massey and Khanna's letter to the court, I have no confidence that the Department of Justice, already 30 days late in complying with the act with no end in sight, and with constantly shifting public pronouncements about the volume of documents subject to the act being reviewed, will produce the Epstein files it has represented to this court that it would release, nor the files it is legally required to produce pursuant to the act. Based on my personal experience, the Department of Justice's failure to comply with its statutory obligations has caused significant emotional distress and re-traumatization both to me and to other survivors with whom I regularly speak. Horrible, horrible stuff that the Trump regime is inflicting, but powerful that these survivors have come forward to file these documents in federal court. This is what Donald Trump and the DOJ feared. And the big misstep the DOJ made is when they were trying to set up the federal judges and blame them for the delays in the production of the Epstein files. They demanded that these judges amend the protective orders in order for them to produce the Epstein files. And then the DOJ has refused to produce the Epstein files and has tried to blame it on the court and blame it on the federal judges. Ro Khanna was just doing a hit on MS Now. He was speaking, and here is what he had to say. Let's play this clip with Lawrence O'Donnell. Play this first clip.
Lawrence, not only is he violating the law, the Department of Justice had the audacity to brief Judge Engelmeyer and say that the judge has no authority to enforce the law. In their brief, they say, the judge, you can't do anything if we're violating the law. It was almost insulting the court. And that's why I think we saw these enormously courageous survivors, Haley Robson and Lisa Phillips, write to the court saying, this is causing us trauma. This is not a political football. We have suffered for decades. Please, court, do something so that the law is enforced.
And here he is again. Let's play this clip.
We, Thomas Massey and our lawyer tomorrow replies at the request of Judge Engelmeyer, making the case again for the special master and asking the judge, if he's not going to go as far as a special master, which we think would solve the issue, to at least order the release of some of the key documents. The survivors' statements to the FBI, the 302 statements where they implicate other rich and powerful men who raped them. None of those statements have come out. We want the judge to order the release of that. We want the judge to order the release of the prosecution memo, which details the other co-conspirators. And I am confident that Judge Engelmeyer will do something reasonable and thoughtful.
Now, I had the opportunity to interview Lisa Phillips about the sexual assault that she experienced at the hands of at the hands of Epstein. Here's what she told me. Play this clip.
So I remember being on sitting on the bed with the other young model and talking to her. And then there was a knock at the door, and one of the other young girls walked in and said, Jeffrey's ready for his massage. And at that point, I just looked at the other girl and was like, what's going on? Like, I don't know how to do a massage. And she's like, oh, well, Jeffrey just likes massages. It's kind of what we have to do. I wasn't really expecting for you to do that, but, I guess he likes you, and we're just going to have to go do it. And so I kind of argue with a little bit with her because I just thought it was kind of weird. But I ended up going with her and walked across, the island to where Jeffrey's quarters were and his bedroom. And we walked into that room, and, he was lying down on a massage table naked, and, had this little silly grin come in, and was very playful. The energy shifted a little bit. It was now more personal questions like, do you have a boyfriend? And asking a little like sexual things, and, did a real massage and taught me some massage techniques, and it was kind of, it was uncomfortable, but at that point it was just like a weird, creepy massage. And then he turned over, and that's when things got a little bit dark. His demeanor changed, and I didn't feel really safe anymore, and I didn't really know what was going on, and I kept looking at her, and she was just like looking at me like, you need to do this. And so, at that point, that's when he assaulted both of us together in that room.
Yeah.
So that's basically what happened on the island, and we kind of just finished up and ran out of there.
And then where did you leave the next day, or did you go back to where you were before, where the client was?
Well, we had to stay the night there. So, and
then finally, hat tip to our friend and on the MeidasTouch Network, Lee McGowan, politics girl. Watch as Scott Jennings, the Trump propagandist, tries to say, oh, why are we so upset here? Let's not get all angry. And then Lee McGowan's like, let's not get all angry. What are you talking about? You're covering up a child sex trafficking ring. That's what you're talking about. Play this clip.
They should follow the law, but let's not get our knickers in a twist here.
Let's not get our knickers in a twist over child rape. Why are you talking like that? It's insane. It's insane. The Epstein Files is insane? A multinational, multi-generational child and woman sex trafficking ring. So your attitude right now, you're sort of like, well, shucks, devil be gone, is just horrifying to me. Every woman in the world that is watching this, why are you acting like you have no idea what's happening here? Scott,
He asked me a question about following the law.
And what I'm
said
saying
they should
to you
follow
is
the
your
law.
attitude. Yeah, and they're not following the law. They're 30 days late on following law, and they didn't explain why they redacted the first things in the first place, which they were also supposed to do.
I know.
Listen,
you
at
have
this
a strong
point, this
opinion
is not.
about it, and
I have a strong opinion about it because it is a disgusting policy that they are doing this. They are hiding it. It is not the behavior of innocent people, and everything that is in these files it could bring an entire house down. And if it has to, it has to. If it brings down Democrats, bring them down. If it brings down Republicans, bring them down. If it brings down princes, world leaders, Hollywood people, bring them down. But what it feels like right now is that there's a giant cabal of people that do not have to listen to the law, do not have to oppose the law, and they were supposed to do something, then they didn't do something, and now they're trying to have a new law that says we don't even have to do it.
what's really...
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Help us get to 6 million subscribers. We appreciate you. Thanks for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.